Hi, everyone. It's Abigail Molina with Molina Law Group, where we freeze the fear of ICE by helping immigrants and their families arrive at a place of security and prosperity here in the U.S. Hola a todos, soy la abogada Abigail Molina con Molina Law Group, donde congelamos el miedo al ICE y ayudamos a inmigrantes y sus familias llegar a un lugar de seguridad y prosperidad aquí en los Estados Unidos. So welcome. This is live Q&A with me, attorney Abigail Molina, where we talk about all of your immigration related questions. And while I wait for questions, I talk about different topics. So I hope that you're having a great Sunday. If you're seeing this in a recording, that just means that you already missed us. We were live for a bit and we're done. But you can see us every Saturday and Sunday, usually in the afternoons. And I try to give a little bit of a heads up. So if you like our page and turn on your notifications, you should get notified of when we go live. You can bring your questions and I'd be happy to answer those here. We do give out prizes for the best question. So if you would like to play along with us, we would love to have you participate. Estamos aquí hoy para el show de preguntas y respuestas con la abogada de inmigración, soy yo. Y normalmente estamos aquí los sábados y domingos por la tarde para contestar sus preguntas sobre casos de inmigración y para platicar de temas de inmigración, anuncios, noticias, lo nuevo. Entonces, estamos aquí esperando sus preguntas. Si lo está viendo ya grabado, eso quiere decir que ya no estamos aquí en vivo, pero nos puede ver cada sábado y domingo en la tarde y puede hacer like a la página y prender sus notificaciones para saber exactamente cuándo vamos en vivo. Entonces, esperamos sus preguntas. Puede ponerlas en los comentarios abajo. Thank you all for joining us tonight. We will be talking today about timing, about how it is so important to make sure that your timing is right for your immigration application. So hopefully you are not among those who wish that they would have filed when they had a chance. Hopefully you are one of those who does things right away, gets things done. I don't know about you, but I always hate that feeling of being just like a day late and $1 short. I know that's a saying. I'm not sure where that comes from. If anybody knows where that comes from, I'd love to hear the history of that saying. But so often it feels like, oh man, if I just would have done this last week, or if I would have done this a couple of months ago, then I could have taken advantage of, whatever was available at that time. We know that with immigration, things are constantly changing. And so if you qualify for something one day, take advantage of it because you don't know if that same application might be available to you in the future. If things change, your situation could change, the laws could change. And so many things are dependent on filing in a specific period of time. So I want to talk about that today, how important it is to file on time, to file at a specific time, different deadlines that you may or may not be aware of. Hoy vamos a estar platicando sobre el tema de cuándo solicitar y las fechas de límite para ciertas solicitudes para poder solicitar. Entonces, no sé cómo decirlo en español, pero en inglés hay un dicho, un día tarde y falta $1. No sé cómo traducirlo, y tampoco entiendo exactamente de dónde vino ese dicho en inglés, pero quiere decir que siempre que alguien se siente como que siempre está un poco tarde a la fiesta o un poco tarde a aprovechar y no puede aprovechar en el tiempo adecuado porque no está tomando los pasos necesarios en el tiempo requerido para poder hacer lo que desea hacer. Entonces, espero que usted no es uno de esas personas. A veces se siente sin suerte que, si hubiera aprovechado hace un mes o 2 meses o el año pasado hubiera calificado para algo. Y sabemos que con inmigración siempre está cambiando las leyes y muchas veces alguien que calificaba tal vez ya no va a calificar o las fechas de límite que existe. Es muy importante siempre estar al tanto de las fechas de límite para poder solicitar cuando le toca y cuando está calificado. Entonces, vamos a estar platicando de este tema hoy. So, one of the most important deadlines that I want to start off by talking about is the deadline to file an asylum application. If you know anyone who wants to file for asylum and who has recently entered the US, there is a 1-year filing deadline. And of course, there's exceptions if you go past that 1 year, and we could take a look at that. But it's so important to make sure that you file within that first year of arriving if your plan is to file for asylum. Entonces, la primera fecha de límite que quería recordarles, si alguien quiere solicitar asilo, es muy importante solicitar el asilo dentro del primer año de haber llegado a los Estados Unidos. Entonces, si usted conoce a alguien o tal vez usted quiere pedir asilo, claro que hay excepciones, pero tiene 1 año para solicitar su asilo después de llegar a los Estados Unidos. Y si pasa ese límite, puede haber excepciones, pero es mucho más complicado calificar para asilo después del año. Entonces, ten cuidado si está en proceso y a veces está complicado porque las cortes estaban cerrados y casi no están programando, las citas están programando y luego están cancelando las citas en corte. Entonces, es un poco confuso cuándo y cómo debe de solicitar asilo, pero nosotros sabemos cómo hacerlo, podemos ayudarle con su caso de asilo, no se preocupe. Llámanos 541-653-8899. So don't forget that 1-year rule for asylum. If you know someone who needs to request asylum, and of course there's exceptions to it, but if you pass that 1 year, it can get much more difficult and complicated to file for asylum. And it is complicated right now because the courts have been closed and many times people are getting their hearings rescheduled and they're not sure exactly how and when to file the asylum application. So make sure that you talk with someone. We would be happy to help you. We know how to navigate that system. We know how to make sure that it's filed on time and also to be able to qualify for your work permit that way. So call us today, 541-653-8899, if you or anyone you know has that situation. Another deadline to be aware of is anyone who has a 2-year green card through marriage. If you have a 2-year green card through marriage, you must file to remove the conditions from that residency. And you can do that within 90 days before that 2-year expiration. So take advantage of that 90 days. File early. If you file late, you can still get it approved, but it becomes more complicated. So make sure you file on time. Don't wait till right up against that deadline because it'll cause unnecessary stress. So for example, in our office, we start 6 months in advance of the 2-year expiration just to make sure that we are totally ready. We can put all of the application together and gather all of the documents necessary without a lot of stress and be ready at that 90-day mark before the 2-year anniversary to be able to file right away to get the 10-year card. Particularly if you are no longer together with your spouse, if you're separated or divorced, or there's been some kind of abuse or mistreatment, make sure that you reach out to an immigration attorney right away to begin to prepare that, even more than 6 months before that 2 years, if you already know that that's going to be your situation. And remember that if the attorney that worked with you on the original green card application probably has a conflict of interest now if you're no longer with that same spouse. So make sure that you check in. They may or may not be able to help you. And so if that's the case, we would be happy to help you and take over that case moving forward. Otra fecha de límite muy importante recordar: las personas que reciben una mica por medio de matrimonio, ellos tienen una tarjeta que es válido por 2 años. Entonces, 90 días antes de que se vence esa mica, tiene que renovar, tiene que solicitar para quitar las condiciones de su residencia. Y nosotros recomendamos empezar de preparar hasta 6 meses antes, porque eso le da 3 meses de preparar bien, con calma, y entregar su solicitud los 90 días antes de que se vence su mica, porque no quiere el estrés y la presión de estar solicitando y preparando algo al último momento. Entonces, ten cuidado con eso y recuerda que si ya no están juntos con su pareja, si había un divorcio o separación o abuso, mucho más importante empezar de preparar desde mucho más antes, porque eso sí está más complicado y va a requerir más tiempo para preparar. Y recuerda también si ya no están juntos y si, por ejemplo, si hay separación o divorcio, la abogada que les ayudó con su caso a lo mejor no puede ayudarle con el próximo paso. Entonces, ten cuidado porque se puede tener conflictos. Hay que llamar y explicar la situación y averiguar si va a ser posible seguir adelante con la misma representación que tenía. Muy importante tener cuidado con esa fecha de límite. All right, another deadline. We're talking about deadlines tonight and how important it is to take action so that you don't miss out. And so sometimes there's hard deadlines where you just don't qualify anymore. And there's other times where it just gets a lot more complicated after a certain point. So we've talked about the asylum 1-year deadline. We've talked about the conditional residency 2-year deadline to file to remove those conditions. The next deadline I want to talk about is the widow or widower's deadline. So this is actually kind of a newish part of the immigration law. For a long time. If you were married to a U.S. citizen or a permanent resident and they passed away without applying for you, you were just kind of like out of luck. And fortunately, that changed because it's a horrible situation to be in. You're mourning the grief and also realizing that you're now no longer able to apply. If your spouse passed away within 2 years, then you can apply as a self-petition for your green card. There's a process to that, and I'm not going to talk about all of that today, but the most important thing to keep in mind is 2 years. You only have 2 years, which I wish they would extend that, because how many people are just, so overwhelmed with grief and then having to put together an application within those 2 years after losing their spouse. That's a difficult thing to do. But keep that in mind. If you or someone has recently lost their spouse that was a permanent resident or citizen, they can still apply for their permanent resident status, their green card, but they must do it within 2 years of the death of their spouse. Entonces, estamos platicando de fechas de límite hoy. Estoy aquí para contestar preguntas también, pero mientras esperamos preguntas, estoy explicando sobre algunas fechas de límite. Hemos platicado del asilo, que hay 1 año para solicitar el asilo, y también la residencia de 2 años para quitar las condiciones. Tiene 2 años para solicitar, tiene que hacerlo antes del aniversario segundo. Tercer fecha de límite que queremos platicar es el remedio, la protección para viudas y viudos. Entonces, muchas personas tal vez no saben que hay protección especial para personas que estaban casados con ciudadanos residentes y su pareja falleció, pero tiene que solicitar dentro de 2 años después de que falleció su pareja. Muy, muy importante, porque este tiempo vuela. Sabemos que el tiempo va rápido. Imagínese perdiendo su pareja y está en el proceso de no sé, de la tristeza, no sé qué es la palabra para grieve, está procesando ese shock y luego tiene que preparar y presentar su caso antes de pasar los 2 años después de que falleció su pareja. Entonces, muy importante no perder esa fecha de límite, porque eso sí es una fecha fija. Son 2 años que le dan para procesar, para empezar el proceso, para solicitar su residencia después de que fallece su esposo o esposa. Okay. Another deadline. We're talking about deadlines today. We've talked about the widow that has to apply within 2 years of death. Similar to that one, there is a rule for anyone who was an abused spouse of a citizen or a resident. Anyone who was abused, they have unlimited time as long as the marriage is still in existence. But once the abusive partner files for divorce and the divorce is final, they have 2 years to file for protection as an abused spouse. 2 years. So, and during those 2 years, they cannot remarry. So make sure that if you think that you might qualify as an abused spouse, and that's not just physical abuse, and it doesn't require a police report. There's many, many different types of abuse that can qualify under VAWA. And it's not just women that qualify, but it's also men that can qualify. So if you think that you might qualify and your spouse is preparing to file for divorce, make sure that you talk with a qualified immigration attorney to see if you might qualify for VAWA, because you only have those 2 years after the divorce. And some people might say, well, why does immigration allow it after the divorce? Well, part of the abusive behavior, it can be that divorce and trying to cut off any help that immigration might be able to give that person. So they extend that to 2 years. You've got those 2 years to take action so that you can make sure to take advantage of those protections as an abused spouse and get your green card that way. But be careful, because that is a strict limit, those 2 years after the divorce, and you cannot remarry until you have that process started. So, otra fecha de límite, que estamos platicando de fechas de límite hoy, y similar a la fecha para viudas, que se tiene que empezar el proceso dentro de 2 años después de que fallece su pareja. Otro similar a esto, personas que han sido maltratados, abusados por su esposo, su pareja, residente o ciudadano, sea mujer o hombre, lo que sea. Si esta pareja decide divorciarse, sea decisión de la persona abusiva o sea de su decisión, tiene 2 años después del divorcio para solicitar VAWA, solicitar su protección, su permiso de trabajo, su residencia, por medio de sufrir este abuso. Y no tiene que ser abuso físico, hay muchas formas de abuso que califican para el VAWA, pero tiene que tener cuidado y entregar su solicitud antes de que pasen los 2 años después del divorcio. Y dentro de estos 2 años no se puede casar de nuevo, o sea, no se puede casarse con otra persona o va a perder sus opciones. Entonces, ten cuidado con esta fecha de límite. So you can begin to see that there are many deadlines, many specific time frames that you must file for certain things in order to take advantage of the opportunities that immigration presents. And some of them, once that deadline passes, there may be exceptions, or they may be very difficult to get those exceptions. But some of them there's just no options after that. So be very careful and be cautious, and don't be a day late and a dollar short. Like I said earlier, I have no idea where that saying came from. So if anybody has any idea, pipe up and tell me. But it really can be true that you can be just a day late. I mean, just 1 day late and just $1 short, and miss out on that opportunity. So we want to make sure that everyone understands deadlines, understands the importance of filing timely, so that does not happen to you, right? We don't want that to happen to you. Another deadline to keep in mind is for citizenship. Anyone who is married to a U.S. citizen and has got their green card through that marriage and is still married and together with that U.S. citizen, they can apply for their citizenship 90 days before their 3rd anniversary. So that's not a deadline per se, because there's no specific end date when you can qualify for it. But that's an important date to watch, because that's the first date when you can qualify for it. And if you can qualify sooner, why not? Why not take advantage of that? Otherwise, if it's not through marriage, or if you're no longer together with that individual, then you have to wait 90 days before 5 years. So take advantage of that, right? Who wants to continue to be a resident when you're eligible to become a citizen? And there might be some valid reasons for it, but we're going to be talking in the next couple of weeks ahead. What are the benefits of becoming a citizen? There's many different benefits to becoming a citizen that many people don't think of. And I met with a client actually recently that hired us, and he had really no interest in becoming a citizen. He'd been a resident for many years, and even though he qualified and could be approved for citizenship. He really just didn't have an interest in it. But when I presented to him the two different scenarios of how applying for his family as a resident versus applying for his family as a citizen, and the time difference, the length of time it was going to take to for both those applications, it quickly became clear that there were many benefits to becoming a citizen that he had not considered previously. So keep that in mind. The 3 years, 90 days before the 3-year anniversary of your green card, you can apply for your citizenship as long as you're still together with that spouse that applied for you originally. Otra fecha de límite de tomar en cuenta es para personas que se hicieron residentes por medio de su pareja ciudadana, su esposo o esposa ciudadano. Pueden solicitar su ciudadanía después de 90 días antes de su tercer aniversario de tener su residencia. Esto no es una fecha de límite en sí, porque no existe una fecha de límite. Me imagino que el muerte es cuando ya no se puede solicitar la ciudadanía, pero el día más pronto para poder solicitar la ciudadanía. ¿Y por qué no aprovechar de hacer la ciudadanía lo antes posible? Porque otras personas que no hicieron su residencia por medio de matrimonio tienen que esperar hasta 90 días antes de los 5 años, el 5º aniversario. Entonces, ¿por qué no aprovechar y hacer la ciudadanía lo antes posible? Porque hay muchos beneficios de hacer la ciudadanía, y vamos a estar platicando en las semanas que entran sobre los beneficios de hacerse ciudadano. No es solo el derecho de votar, aunque eso sí es un beneficio muy importante. Pero, por ejemplo, estuve platicando con un nuevo cliente y él ha sido residente por décadas, muchos años, y califica para hacer la ciudadanía, pero a él no le importaba, no tenía importancia para él hacerse ciudadano. Entonces, cuando empezamos a platicar sobre sus opciones para solicitar a su familia, siendo residente, o siendo ciudadano, él se dio cuenta muy rápido que hay muchos beneficios para su familia si él hiciera ciudadano. Entonces ya cambió de su opinión, ya le importa hacer la ciudadanía y va a hacerlo, y su familia va a poder arreglar mucho más fácil, mucho más rápido que por medio de él como residente. Entonces, esto es otra fecha, no fecha de límite, pero fecha importante para recordar y tomar en cuenta sobre su caso de inmigración. So we're talking again today about deadlines, important timelines for immigration, why it's important to take action as soon as possible. I talk with so many people who've waited decades, really, to apply, and they've been waiting for their child to turn 21, or they've been waiting to be eligible through another family member, and they know and they understand the importance of starting right away. And then there's other people who just, well, I'll get around to it, and it's not really that important to me. And then when they finally do get around to it, that option that they had before is no longer available because they didn't take advantage of it. For example, I've spoken with many students who qualify for DACA and could have filed years ago, but just never got around to it. Didn't want to do a GED program, or didn't want to take the steps necessary to gather the information that they needed, didn't want to pay for it, all these different excuses that I've heard. And now that DACA is on hold, now they really wish that they would have applied for DACA. And of course, we're still encouraging people to apply and get in line, because we do believe that DACA will start eventually back up. But imagine that sense of regret for not having taken action when they could have. And so we want people to avoid that. Don't be a day late and a dollar short. Show up on time, do what you need to do to do what needs to be done. And we know that will be the next best step for you. Entonces, también estamos platicando sobre casos de DACA. Yo he platicado con bastantes estudiantes, bastantes personas que califican para DACA, pero no tomaron acción cuando estuvo disponible. Entonces, ahora están sintiendo mucho, ¿qué es la palabra? se siente, están arrepentiendo de que no tomaron acción. Tenía muchas excusas, que no querían meterse en un programa de GED o no querían terminar la escuela o no querían buscar la información necesaria o no querían pagar los honorarios necesarios, pero ahora están muy arrepentidos de que ya se pusieron en pausa el programa de DACA y no se puede calificar ahorita en este momento. Claro que estamos creyendo que va a empezar de nuevo el programa de DACA, pero ahora se ve que desde el verano pasado no se ha podido. Entonces, esas personas están arrepentidas y no queremos que usted mismo, usted también está arrepentiendo por no haber tomado acción cuando le tocaba tomar acción. Entonces, por eso queríamos tocar en ese tema tan importante, tomar acción cuando se pueda, cuando cuando es posible tomar acción. Y le animamos llamarnos, tomar el primer paso de llamarnos, programar su primera llamada completamente gratuita para saber si tiene opciones para poder tomar el próximo paso. Entonces, llámanos para programar su cita de descubrimiento completamente gratis. No hay requisito en el futuro de pagar algo. Si no hay opciones, sale sabiendo que no hay opciones, pero si hay opciones, ¿por qué no aprovechar del momento ahorita que tenemos una administración positiva, una administración que está pro-immigrant, pro-inmigrante? Entonces, ¿por qué no aprovechar de esto ahorita? Llámanos 541-653-8899. We've been talking tonight about deadlines, how important it is to take advantage, strike when the iron's hot. Don't be a day late and a dollar short. All of these sayings, I wish I knew where all of these sayings came from, because I'm sure that they have a story that's very interesting. But how important it is to really take advantage when the time is right. And so the first step is to call us for a free discovery call, completely free. We will tell you whether or not you have options for your immigration case, for you, a loved one, a family member. And if there's no options, then you walk away with that knowledge that right now there's no options. But if there is something that can be done, we are encouraging people to take that next step. Don't delay anymore. Don't wait. Don't make more excuses. Right now, we have a really good administration. We have a pro-immigrant administration. Now is the best time to do it. And honestly, we don't know what the next elections are going to bring. We don't know what the next couple of years are going to look like or down the road. So we're really encouraging people to take advantage, not delay anymore, but take advantage and strike now while the iron is hot. Who knows where that saying comes from? Call us today, 541-653-8899. Oh, I've been talking and we had a question. Oh, thanks, honey. My husband showed up for a question. Will the fees be increasing? Are they announced beforehand? We haven't heard anything about any fees increasing, but they do increase from time to time. So that's another great reason why to take advantage of now, why you might be $1 short in the future if you wait too long, because you might be able to afford the filing fee today. But, like under Trump, they were trying to basically double the application fee for citizenship. So that would have been a significant hardship to many people who had waited for their citizenship. So fortunately, things haven't gone up yet, but it has been a while since they did a fee increase, and we're likely to see that soon. So that's another great reason why to take action now. Take advantage that the filing fees have not gone up before they do go up. Of course, legal fees are going to go up. If you haven't noticed, everything around you, prices are going up. So now is the time to take advantage, before prices go up. Take advantage of the time now to do what you can to take that next step for your legal status. Gracias a Marcos, mi esposito, que está haciendo la pregunta de si los honorarios de inmigración están subiendo, se van a aumentar, o si han anunciado o cuándo se van a anunciar. No hemos escuchado anuncios, pero sí hace tiempo que no han subido los honorarios de inmigración. Entonces, esto es otra razón, otra base para tomar acción ya. en su caso porque nunca sabe cuándo se van a subir. ¿Y qué tal? Por ejemplo, bajo Trump, él quiso casi doblar el precio de la ciudadanía. Entonces, las personas que no han hecho su ciudadanía hubiera podido perder otra oportunidad por no tener suficiente dinero. Entonces, en inglés, el dicho, no sé cómo decirlo en español, un día tarde y falta $1. Entonces, esto sí es donde se puede ver que si no toma acción, puede faltar dinero en el futuro. Y todos los precios, todito está subiendo. No sé si ha notado en su gasolina, en su comida, en su electricidad, todo está subiendo, todos los precios van a subir. Entonces, no podemos también pensar que los honorarios de inmigración, los honorarios, los costos legales, todo va a estar subiendo porque todo alrededor, el costo de vivir está subiendo bastante. Entonces, toma acción ya, aprovecha mientras y antes de que suban todos los honorarios. Es otra razón por lo cual tomar acción ya. So I hope that you've enjoyed this video. Please share it. Pass the word, make sure that people understand the importance of taking action before deadlines, specifically those specific deadlines. And I really wish that those two-year deadlines for widows and those who've been abused would be longer because so many people are in shock, are in grief, are processing that transition period. And so it's really important. If you love someone who is going through that situation, make sure that you take them by the hand and take them to an immigration attorney. We'd be happy to walk them through that, help them through that, and also get some help processing that grief and getting some counseling surrounding the trauma of being a victim of domestic violence and various forms of abuse. So thanks for being with us today. Please share this video. Gracias por estar con nosotros hoy. Por favor, comparte este video. Tiene información muy importante para la comunidad sobre fechas de límite y por qué es tan importante tomar acción ya en su caso de inmigración. Gracias por estar con nosotros. Vamos a estar aquí de nuevo el sábado. Voy a estar desde la oficina de Beaverton. Entonces yo les enseño la oficina en Beaverton mientras estoy allí el sábado y también el domingo vamos a estar aquí. Entonces, por favor, que estén con nosotros con sus preguntas. Y voy a estar aquí con mis respuestas. Espero que pasen buena semana, buen empiezo de su semana, buen fin de su fin de semana y nos vemos muy pronto. Thanks all for being with us. I'll be back next weekend. I'm going to be up in the Beaverton office on Saturday, so I'll try to do a Q&A from up there so you guys can see the beautiful view of Mount Hood up there. I love that about that office. And I will look forward to talking with you guys very soon. Have a great start to your week, great end to your weekend. And we look forward to talking to you all very soon. Give us a call, 541-653-8899. Take care. Have a good night. Hasta pronto.